welcome everybody to a Noahide meeting. That's us. This is Pesach speaking to you from Tzfat Israel. Terry's here from Kentucky.
Tennessee.
I'm sorry, Tennessee.
Troy's in Kentucky.
I am in Kentucky.
I was thinking about Kentucky bourbon, but that's okay.
Oh, well, I'm originally from Kentucky, so.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. We got Troy, Veronica, and Devorah here. And we're certainly hoping that other people will join us every week for this meeting that we have. It's just an open meeting. There's Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Thomas. Yeah, I was back and forth trying to help him get on.
We
Can
do
you hear
this. Yeah, we hear you.
All right.
We're doing this every Sunday at 12 noon Eastern Time USA, which I'm not going to give Israeli time now. We don't switch over to daylight time for another 3 weeks. So it's 12 noon Eastern daylight time. Wherever you are in the world, convert it over to whatever it is you need to be. So the United States goes on daylight time about a month before the rest of the world. So that's it, 12 noon Eastern daylight time. We're here to talk about the Noahide. Here to talk about the tsunami that's happening in the world today, this big tidal wave of people leaving other religions and wanting to connect with the God of Israel. And we were discussing on the pre-show show where we talk a little bit about what's going on in the world. And we've understood, or we're understanding, that becoming or being titled as a Noahide, which I don't know if I'm not going to get into that right now, but anyway, to have the connection with the God of Israel and get the truth about the Creator is absolutely an astounding thing, and it's so much simpler than everybody thinks. And because it's so simple, they just say, wait a minute, that can't be right. I've learned all this other stuff in the other religion I was in. I've learned this and learned that. And we got to have rituals. We got to have this. And we got to have that. But that's not the way it's set up in Torah for the Noahides, for the 99.98% of the world. It's set up for the Jews, for the Israelites. Well, I'm going to say the Jews because that's, you got the Noahides, you got the Jews. In the end, everybody's an Israelite, by the way. We'll talk about that, but not today. The important thing here is we all have a part to play out in God's plan. And all we have to do is focus in on it and do it. And there isn't a lot of rites and rituals involved with it other than just being a decent human being. And knowing that the reason you're a decent human being isn't because it was your decision to be a decent human being, but because God told Moses to tell you it's a good idea to be a decent human being. We're all created in God's image. Now, usually when we say that, it's like, oh, I'm like God, and we think about a physical image, but it has nothing to do with that. We all carry in our DNA the 7 universal laws. It's in our DNA. Somebody says, hey, it's a good idea not to murder. Boy, did I get a good idea? No, because you're created in the image of God. It comes from Him. It's in you. You didn't think it up. He put it in you. Fidelity in marriage, He put in you. Government and a judgment system, He put it in you. It's a part of Him that He put in you. So, of course, if you think about it, you're going to think it's going to come right into your head because you're created in His image. You know, the Jews, He gave us a bunch of extra stuff to do because we're supposed to be showing people how to do things, and He wants to keep us on a very narrow path, so to speak, walking in the world to be a good example to everybody. But also within what He gave us is the same judgment system that He gave to the whole world. We're supposed to appoint judges. We have a question, we take it before the judges. When the judges tell us what to do with the information, then we're supposed to do it. And if we don't do it, we're breaking the law. Well, hey, how does it work in every court in the world? At least democratic court in the world. The same way. How does the whole world have these courts and these laws and these understandings? Because it's in every human being's DNA, and eventually you're going to think about it. It's going to be there. What we're doing is we're trying to be good human beings, the way God created us. And we're trying to, the only way I can say it, it's going to sound weird, the lion laying down with the lamb. Now, what this means when we read about it in Torah, in the prophecies, is that the whole world will come together in peace. It's not some physical thing where all of a sudden the lions are going to become grass eaters. God's going to change their biology of who they are. He's not going to do that. But what he does with us human beings is, because the want for war and jealousy and greed is going to disappear, then we can all come together and live peacefully and not be jealous of one another and not find all the differences between each other, but simply live together. And it's in our DNA. We're created that way. But we want to go the other way because we have that animal instinct in us also. And I said last week I was going to talk about like levels of Noahides this week. And I've been looking at it and researching it. And those of you who have ever heard of a book called the Tanya, oh, there's Marinella. Welcome, Marinella. Good to see you. How you doing? If you've ever heard of a book called the Tanya, we call it the Torah of Hasidus, of Hasidus, of how to live your life for a Jew. And there are different people, there are different levels in being a Jew, just like there is in being a human being. There's different levels. The levels work with the bad guy. We call it the Rasha. Then there's the Benoni, or there's just the average Joe. And then there's the Tzaddik. 3 levels. Within the 3 levels, there are levels within levels. What we have is the Tzaddik, the righteous person, is the last one we're going to talk about. We're going to start with what we call the Rasha, the evil person. That doesn't mean they were created evil. It just means what they do is not right. They're people that are totally evil. What do I mean by that? They don't care about other people. They don't care about nothing. They don't care about anybody else's property. They just want what they want. Everything is what they want. Hi. Sure, I just got back from working with a client. They don't think about anything else, but they let their animal spirit, their animal soul take them over. They want to sleep with somebody. They want to take somebody's food. They want to cheat somebody. They want greed, power, whatever it is they want. They're just evil people, and they'll never rise above it. And believe me, there are people like that in the world. Then we have the evil person that is doing good. Wait a minute, how can that happen? We have the evil person that realizes that there are things he should or shouldn't do, and sometimes he does good things, but not all the time. Evil still has more of a role in his life or her life than the good does. Now I'm going to go deeper into all of these, but then we have the Benoni, the middleman, the average Joe. The average Joe slips back and forth between evil and average, constantly slipping back and forth. He does everything great and all that, and then he'll do something. What can I use as an example? No, I use something we were talking about in the pre-show. That he'll, in the supermarket while he or she is shopping, they'll take a handful of grapes and eat it while they're walking around the store shopping. they've stolen those grapes. They don't think about it, but they've done it. They're not paying for it when they leave the store, because grapes are sold by weight. They may come out of the store one day and they got $10 extra change, or $2 extra change, or 50 cents extra change. They just put it in their pocket and walk away. That's your average guy that still has this inclination towards the evil. Now, this is where most of us are. I don't care if you're Jew or you're non-Jew. This is where most people are. We strive to be the best person we can be, but when an evil thought comes into our head, we'll just do it up to a certain limit. We have lines we won't cross, but we still allow those thoughts to become. Oh, thank you. I forgot to do that.
I know.
Thank you. They still allow those evil thoughts to take action in their body, in their mind, however it is. Office romance. And I'm not talking about, it doesn't have to be physical. It can be over Facebook. It can be on the telephone. It can be when you're not faithful to your partner by, I'll put it in quotes, making love over the phone or on Facebook, or, all these things people say over the face, guys know what I'm talking about. I don't have to get elaborate in it. And everything you do, and you'll get a thought in your head. I'm going to do this, and you just go and do it. You don't not do it. And this is where most people are today. Then you have the Benoni that does, the average person that does good. Now, what is that person? Oh, man, I want a handful of them grapes. Nah, I'm not going to eat them. That's stealing. Man, I'd like to say something to that guy or that gal over there, sexy. No, I'm not going to do it. In other words, the thoughts come into your mind, and you conquer the thought, and you don't do that thing. They're actively working on changing themselves. So not all people work on changing themselves. Just changing yourself is what we call tikkun olam, or fixing the world. You treat other people properly. You treat them like you would want to be treated, and respect them like you would want to be respected, then they treat you back the same way, and they'll treat somebody else that way, and it just spreads from one person to the next person to the next person. On Facebook, there's a lot of satire and a lot of, what are they called, memes, making fun of people and stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there like that. People do it, but we're not supposed to make fun of other people. We're not supposed to embarrass people in public, but we do it. And all of you have had posts that you just wanted to type it in, send, like a slap back to somebody for what they posted. But that's not what we're all about. That is more of an animal reaction than it is a godly reaction. I know people don't like to hear this. I know people I've coached and helped in this, that I got to the point where they would type all the stuff out and then hit delete. They got out what they wanted to say, but they didn't send it. Some of them have even got to the point where they don't even type it out anymore. They don't even think, okay, well, why should I bother typing it out? Because I'm not going to send it anyway, so why should I think it? But there's a lot of that stuff. That's where all this fake news comes from. That's where all this garbage comes from that we see out there on Facebook and even in the printed news and even from the news websites. But when you get to the point where before you do something, you think about it. Conscious thinking. Nah, that's not what God wants. Yeah, I know. I really want to do it. I really want to do this thing. Nope. It even comes down to eating that extra helping of strawberry shortcake. It's a way of training yourself, even if it's permitted and even if it's good, not to overindulge. In other words, Yeah, I want that. Or, hey, you know what? I'm going to have a beer. I'm going to have another one. I'm going to have another one. I used to be that way. I used to have 3 or 4 beers. Not one. I couldn't drink one. It was 3 or 4. And then went on my way. And because I like the taste of beer and peanuts or beer and popcorn or beer and potato chips or beer and French fries, you know. And I sometimes overindulge. Not to the point where I got drunk or anything, but just I knew I shouldn't have drunk as much as I did. But when you can stop these things consciously, then you're the Benoni that's doing good. Then, of course, we have what we call the righteous Gentile, the Tzaddik Omoto Olam, the righteous of the world, peoples of the world. And there's 2 types of them too. There's the righteous that do bad, and the righteous that are righteous. And believe you me, there are few and far between of those people. Because the righteous who are righteous, they never even get a thought in their mind to do something that's not right. They've conquered it. There's nothing for them to think about. It just dies in their head, this thought. But the righteous of the world, which you guys are working to become part of, which is achievable, and maybe some of you are there already, is simply those 7 universal laws for all mankind. And when a thought starts to come into your mind, you just consciously reject it immediately. There's no thinking about it, where the average person has to stop and think about it. But once you attain that connection to Hashem, once you attain that connection to the God of Israel, once you become part of that entity, the God of Israel, and you've connected and you've committed to the God of Israel as who you are right now. You don't have to convert, you don't have to do anything, just leave behind any idolatries or whatever. You become that righteous person. And it gives you something far more valuable than all the rites and rituals of any religion in the whole world. It gives you the right to be with Hashem forever. It gives you that eternal life. It gives you what all of us are looking for. The right to be connected to God forever and to be part of Him forever and ever. All religions are bound up in that. Christianity is bound up with that. Islam is bound up with that. Buddhism is bound up with that. All religions are bound up with that connection with God and being one with God forever and living forever. We only know, and we've only been taught one way, that the Jews have only been taught one way, and that's just do what He says and do it willingly. Do it and do it willingly. And when we read through the Torah and we understand, now this week's Torah portion that we're reading is Vayikra, which is the beginning of the book Leviticus, which most sane people put the book down. They'll read Genesis and Exodus, get to Leviticus and say, whoa, I don't need all this stuff. Even some Jews do that. And it's true, you don't. It's weird. That's when it starts to get really complicated. But there are a couple of things that have to be understood about the book of Leviticus and the sacrifices that were given and everything else. There are 2 of the holidays that God has proclaimed that are directly tied to the whole world. One of them is Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year, which falls down in September for most on the other calendar, and Sukkot or Sukkot, Festival of Booths. And when you read about these, you see that God is commanding us through all eternity, forever, to cover the sins of the rest of the world through certain sacrificial rituals and certain prayers and certain things to do. So by the Jews, who he says to be the light to the world and the priests of the world, although we're not, I know kind of say it tongue in cheek, because like a lot of us just aren't priests. We wouldn't look at ourselves as priests. We just look at ourselves as people that happen to be born Jewish. But God said, no, you're a light to the world, you're a priest of the world. And when it comes to these holidays, when you get up and pray, when you do the sacrifices, you're covering the sins of the rest of the world. Because you do this once a year on these 2 days, the rest of the world, I'm letting things be. It's an amazing phenomenon, but he set it up that way. And what he wants everybody to be is get into that righteous Gentile, righteous Noahide, some people, righteous Ger, I guess some people use that word. That's what God's asking from you. It's not a whole lot. It's a simple thing. And it is simple. People don't like it when it's too simple. If it's not complicated, it's not good. God doesn't tell me I have to do this and that and the other thing, it's not good. But God is telling each and every person, go live your life. Enjoy the life you have. That's why you have it. Enjoy it. Do what you want to do in your life within certain guidelines. Raise children, raise grandchildren. Enjoy this time you're spending now, because it's never coming back. We go up to the next level of life, those of us that make it there, and we move forward. Now, that is a preamble, so to speak, of the levels, which I want to go into deeper, but I think we'll do it each week. We'll do a little bit more into each of them, but I'm just going to open up to questions now. If anybody has any questions about what I said so far.
What about prayer?
Good question. When you talk to God, you're praying. When you have a connection with God, you're praying. He doesn't say you have to praise him all day long. If you need something, you go to him. He says, if you need a button, pray about it. Come to me and ask. We may not always get what we ask for, but lots of times we do get things. And sometimes we get things we don't ask for because we've had that connection with him. But absolutely pray to him. I know there's some prayer books out or some coming out that have revamped the Jewish prayers for other people, and they're good prayers. I myself recommend highly the prayers before and after food, because essentially it's God's food. I don't care if I plowed the field and raised it. It's still his. He gave it to me. It didn't come from nowhere. He created it. So what do? I thank him for supplying the food I need. I don't have to bless the food. The food already blessed. He blessed it. In creation, he says it's all good. I thank him for giving it to me to eat for nourishment. At the end of the prayer, at the end of the, after eating, I want to look, when we're hungry and we're sitting down to eat, what's the first thing everybody does? Let's get around. Let's thank God for supplying the food. Let's bless the food. But as soon as you've got a full tummy, as soon as you're satiated, okay. It's like the guy that prayed to God for a parking space. And just as he prayed, the guy pulls out from him. He says, okay, God, never mind. I found a parking space. When we finish eating, we have to take the time to thank him for supplying the food for us and taking care of us and nurturing us. So those prayers I think are very important. I think it's important at night before you go to sleep to go before him as an individual and thank him for the day you had. Look over your day, check over your day to make sure you didn't do anything improper. It's somebody you may owe somebody an apology for the next day or something like that. It's really important that, yes, because it raises consciousness, Thomas, and it's a good point. I thank God for every little thing that happens in my life. And I'm going to tell you something else, and this may sound goofy. I thank him for the good and the bad. Because something that happens bad to me, it's not bad, it just has unrevealed good in it. I haven't seen the good yet, but it's there. Something always good comes out of it.
I'm doing that when I can remember, but it's kind of a hard concept for me, but I'm breaking that bridge.
Believe you me, it's a hard concept for everybody. You know, it really is. Something's happened, and you say, why me? What's going on here? What happened? What did I do wrong? Sometimes it's a lesson. Sometimes it's a lesson. God will never, ever, ever punish somebody else for your problem. He'll never do anything bad to anybody else for something you did. So don't think that you caused something to happen to somebody else, by the way. That's right there. Everybody pays for their own stuff. But he's not going to make somebody in your family ill because you did something. He's not going to make somebody you know ill because to make you show compassion. That's not going to happen. Absolutely not going to happen. You can't find me an example anywhere in Torah of anything like that happening. And that's where that's all we have to look back on is Torah. Thanking him, I don't know how many times a day I thank him for stuff. Little things, any little tiny thing that happens good. If somebody comes by and puts $1 in our little tzedakah box at our store that helps pay the rent, I thank them for $1. If it's 50 cents, I thank them for the 50 cents.
I mean, I had a situation several years ago when I was doing heating and air. I was screwing some sheet metal together to build a shroud around some ductwork that penetrated an outside wall. And as I ran my first screw in, the piece that I was working was going around a round piece of duct, and it had a point on it, and it spun. And I was right down close to it, and I immediately thanked Hashem, because if that thing had been bent out, it would have probably took both my eyes out. Wow. And so it's like situations like that, I try to be really sensitive to, like, I stop. You know, I was still a Christian at the time. I was like, thank you, God. Thank you for not letting that happen. You know, I've always tried to be sensitive to those kind of situations when I seen that something that could have happened that didn't, when I see it.
That's true. I add one category to my prayers, which there's no specific category in Torah or anything. And that's it. At the end of the day, I'll thank him for the protection he gave me during the day. The protection of things that, I don't know, maybe saved me from an accident, maybe saved me from falling down the stairs, maybe saved me from getting sick or whatever. But he saved me from those things. So,
I try my best to find out bad things happen.
Pardon?
Like if bad things happen, you know, I think we talked about this last week, that, you know, something bad happened. It could have been something to spare you, something from down the road. So even during a bad moment, I try to be mindful and say, thank you, God. You know, you're the true judge. I mean, what else?
Yeah. Anyone here is saying to lift up what you've eaten? That's it. To put it in a specific manner there, Deborah, you're the one in charge of lifting it up. God gives it to you. What you do with it is up to you. If you eat something and you go out and you do good, you've lifted it up. If you eat something, go out and just live normally, you've done nothing with it. And if you go out and do something that is not what God wants, then you have not lifted it up 100%. You just go in the other direction. He gives us the food, which he's already blessed and said it's good, is a source of energy. We automatically lift everything up to a higher level as we, by our actions. Only our actions can lift it up to a higher level. We do. Now, let me just tell you this. You guys can eat anything you want and lift it up to a higher level. God tells me as a Jew I can't eat pork. No matter how much pork I eat, I can't, even if I do holy stuff, I can't lift the pork up because I've already violated something in the beginning. I can't eat shellfish. I can't eat lobsters. I can't eat shrimp, all kinds of stuff. You guys can, and you can use it for good. And the energy that comes from you can be used for good. You can say to lift it up to a higher level, but the words don't lift it up. Your actions lift it up. Say, doing, lifts it up. You can lift up anything by what you do with it, how you live your life. You need a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. If the energy that you get from it, you do something good, you elevated it to a higher level.
I'll be honest with you, I really like how you have put that, because ever since the first time you brought that up, it comes to my mind from time to time of God gives us food, he turns it into the energy of life, and what we do with that life either lifts up the food or it takes it down because of what we do with what God gave us through that food. That's just an amazing concept. I had not heard it explained that way before. It's really, really good.
Francis, is there a special prayer for that, but not from Noahide? No, there is not. We don't lift the food up except through our actions. The energy is turned into action. The food is turned into energy, is turned into action. Even the wine we drink when we do Kiddush, even when we do the blessing on the wine, even the challah we eat for Shabbat. We go through the ceremony and we wash our hands and we make a little mark on it. And we thank God. You know what the prayer is that we hold the bread up. We say, "Thank you, God, for producing the bread from the earth." That's it. Then we take dip a little in salt, and eat a piece. What we do with the piece we ate is up to us. Just up to us. So there is no prayer in Hebrew for lifting up food that I'm aware of. Veronica said, "Hashem cured me from a long, painful kidney stone. It happened so fast, and I felt such a thankfulness to Hashem." Amen. If you're going to have a kidney stone, might as well happen fast. He'll take care of it quickly for you. So I'm not aware of a prayer that is used to lift food up. Even the sacrifices, you don't pray for the sacrifice to be lifted up. You just go through the ceremony, and that when that animal is sacrificed, it's automatically lifted up.
I love Psalms 145, the Ashrei prayer, but I have prayed the whole Psalms 145 together. I've used parts of Psalms 145 to lead into other prayers and things. And I've used this verse 15 as part of my, I word it a little different, but I use it as my foundation of my prayer before food. And Psalms 145:15 in the Art Scroll Tehillim says, the eyes of all look to you with hope, and you give them their food at its proper time. And the other day I was looking at this, and I thought I've done more of the second part, that you give their food at proper time. But when I look at the first part and I bring it together and think about, those of us that look to Hashem with hope, He gives us our food at His proper time. And so I can see that looking toward Hashem with hope and Him supplying food they work together. And so, like, as far as like lifting up foods for to elevate them, maybe the elevation begins with that looking toward Hashem, because we're looking toward Him to begin with, and that is like a beginning process of elevating the food that He's going to give us, because we acknowledge by looking to Him instead of just taking it for granted.
Right. We mean, when we say lift up, we make the food holy. Make the food holy. Here is what we're talking about. And that's true. The very first step there is how you think about it, because that means that's how you're going to use it when it gets in your body. See, everything that God says is holy is through thought, speech, and action. So the action is would be the speech is action. Speech turns into action, which turns into lifting up the food. Now, Marilyn says, according to my understanding, food, God prohibited some food because it doesn't digest well in our body, so I believe I should know how to eat healthy. True, and also that's a good logical explanation why He did it. But there is no logical explanation. We don't know why He did it. We really don't know why. I look at the list of foods and one thing clicks in my head, that the foods that we're forbidden to eat are foods from scavengers, or from beasts that scavenge, or beasts that kill other animals for food. I'm not so sure whether that's the reason or not, but all the fish that don't have scales are bottom feeders. They eat from the bottom of they clean up after the other fish. The birds we aren't allowed to eat are the ones that eat up carcasses of other birds. The pork, the pig is a garbage cleaner. Marinella, you okay? Yeah, like catfish. You all right? Okay. We're to be holy, that's why we don't eat certain foods as Jews. Noahides can eat things like pork. Another question about the food, fish, or beef, having to get them at a higher level, as in reincarnation, are probably too much here. Pardon? Having them to get to a higher level, as in, no, I don't know. See, then they ask a question, I have no idea. No idea. It's just something that, I can't take a venture to guess on that, because food is just recycling energy, is all it's doing. It's taking the energy that God flows down here on the earth, and it recycles it back through us. We use it, and it goes forward. Too hot, huh, Thomas? Too hot, huh?
Yes.
The fish in the deli, okay. Yeah, as Jews, why He put this restriction on this, I don't know. There's all kinds of writings on it and everything, but nobody really knows. It's just what God does, what He does. And that's all I know, and we just have to accept it. the fish in the deli. Yeah, he lifted up the smoked salmon to make it better. Anyway, the prayer thing is a good question. Wait a minute. Let me, I'll be right back. 2 seconds. I want to get a prayer and read it to you. Hey, honey.
Good question, Thomas. Prayers is a very discussed subject for us Noahides
I
because
got to thinking about what he said about that food. You realize every one of them animals they're not supposed to eat, they're cleaners. They keep what he created clean.
That was the point I was making.
Tasty, but
I hate to say it, but they're the garbage collectors.
yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people don't know that shrimp and crab and lobster are actually water cockroaches.
I grew up eating my crabs that I used to get on Chesapeake Bay.
Oh, yes, they're good there.
This is a prayer that is one of the blessings after foods. Blessed are you, Lord, our God, King of the universe, creator of numerous living beings and their needs, for all the things you have created with which to sustain the soul of every living being. Blessed is he who is the life of the world. Now let me explain something about this prayer. This is one that a general prayer after eating foods. It says the creator of numerous living beings and their needs. That means everything he creates, he also creates our needs. It's one of the things that is created with us, our needs to eat, sleep, whatever our needs are. But it says, for all things you have created which to sustain the world of every living being, the soul of every living being, which means thank you for creating us, thank you for creating our needs, and thank you for creating everything we need to satisfy those needs. In other words, he created the needs, but he created the way to take care of the needs also. So he's created with which to sustain the soul of every living being. That means man or animal. Blessed is he who is the life of the world. Now, all we've done here is kind of connect to the essence of the Creator here. We're saying to him, yes, we know you created everything on this earth, and it all has needs, but you also supply all the needs. And all the needs of every living being on this earth are supplied by God. Whether they get to every living being, that's our business and our problem and our mistakes when they don't, through distribution and greed and all kinds of other things. But it's all here on this earth every day for everybody. This is to remind us about that.
Rabbi Singer brought
another prayer.
Go ahead.
Just generally here. Blessed are you, Lord, our God, King of the universe, 4, and it says, for the sustenance, which is baked goods and things like that other than bread, for the fruit of the vine, of course, which is grapes, and for the fruit of the tree. And then it talks about the produce in the fields. And we just thank him for supplying all this and graciously giving it to us as a heritage. So he's saying it's yours. It's a gift to you. And one of the prayers we read every day, it says God created the heavens and the earth. He created the heavens for him and the earth for man. Here we are. And he's taking care of us like the greatest father in the world could ever do. We have everything we need. But when people aren't satisfied with what they need, they go after more, and it takes away from somebody else. Now, I'm not talking about socialism or something, but I'm talking about how the distribution of the food is left to us because the earth belongs to us. When next time somebody asks you, how come God allows all this stuff to happen? He's not allowing anything to happen. We're in control. On this earth. What do you think? He's going to do some miracle and hit everybody in the head that's greedy and say, okay, now go take all the food someplace else? That's us. He's doing it for us. Only for us. And it's important that we understand that. Really important that we understand that. It's part of our thinking, part of our way of life. Look, every time I pray, by the way, and this is a habit you should get into, have a pushka, something little that you drop a coin in. Every single time you go to pray, drop a little coin in there. What is that for? That's for being kind to other people. That's for helping people in some way. When I pray in the mornings, my morning blessings, I put it in there. When I go to shul and I pray, I put it in there. When I go to afternoon prayer, I put it in there. When I go to evening prayer, I put it in there. Every time I pray, I put it in there. And then somebody walks up to me on the street, I give them something. But when you get in the habit of giving, even if it's in a little can in your house, every time you pray, you get in the habit of reaching in your pocket and putting something. You don't have to give somebody 10 or 15 or 20 bucks. Give them $1, give them 50 cents. It's okay. It's not the amount of how much you're given. It's the amount of that you're actually taking from what you have and sharing it with him. This is, you've made a decision that the money that God we all go to work and not, I don't anymore, but people go to work, they earn a living, they get their paycheck on Friday or ends up in the bank. Oh man, I got my money. You think? The work is just a vehicle so God can give you money to use to buy your stuff with. That's what it's about. Do you think the money belongs, these sacrifices that everybody gives, do you think it belongs to him? That it's not his anyway? Everything is his. Everything is his. Yeah, good question, Fran. I'll get that in just a second. Everything belongs to him. So when you get to that point that every time you make a deposit in the bank or every time you take a paycheck, he's giving it to you. It's his. He says, yo, you think I need your cattle? You think I need you to cook me some food? Everything belongs to me. If I want something, I eat it if I'm going to eat. Of course, he doesn't, but you know what the idea here is. So he's trying to make us be better people, to have compassion for other people, to help other people, not be maybe so stingy in the things we do. That's what it's all about. But prayer is a good way to communicate, and you don't have to do formal prayer. Every time you talk to God, you're praying to him. I pray all day long. I talk to him in the car driving up to the city in the morning. To me, that's the same as prayer, but it's not the organized prayer, but it's from my heart. I say things to him. I have a conversation with him sometimes, just like I'm having with you guys. Of course, I don't have the two-way street, but I just talk to him. And sometimes I even vent to him, which is okay too. But it's okay to do those things. He wants you to do those things. He's your creator. He's your father. Any more questions about the prayer? Did I answer the question? I'm assuming I did. Okay. Yeah, shellfish are creepy. They certainly are. Okay. What about judgment? When things happen like hurricanes. Okay. God doesn't do anything supernatural right now. In other words, we're not going to see a whole bunch of miracles. Will he use nature to do things? Yes, he will. Will he use nature to wake people up or punish them? Nations? Yes, he will. But how often does he do it? Sometimes we forget that the earth is alive just like we are. It has a cycle of life just like we do. Right now, the whole northern part of the USA is under this freezing thing, and the snow's up to 5 feet in Minnesota, and all kinds of things happening. And I hear people saying, well, it's a judgment for this, and it's a judgment for that, da-da-da-da-da. But if you look through the history of the earth itself, you'll find this is a part of the cycle of the earth. Part of a cycle. Just like human beings have cycles that we go through, parts of our life. Yes, God created the cycle. Yes, God created a situation where there can be hurricanes. Yes, God created a situation where there can be cold and snow and ice ages. God can take a sea and dry it up in a heartbeat, make a desert out of it. The largest crater on this earth, this natural crater, is Mikdash Ramon in Israel. And it wasn't formed by a strike from something from out of space. The archaeologists have found that seas have been there over the millennia. Seas come, dried up, and gone. Another one's come, dried up, and gone. It's just south of Beersheba. It's called Mikdash Ramon. And most people don't know about it, but it's the largest crater on this earth. I always thought a crater was something that was created by something hitting the earth, but this wasn't. This was a natural formed thing. So sometimes it can happen. I remember, and this just drew the line with me, I think it was George Bush was supposed to speak somewhere in Minnesota before one of the elections. And there's this huge, terrible storm, and people were without electricity, and a couple of million people were inconvenienced, and everybody, oh, see, God didn't want George Bush to show up at the convention. It was for a Republican convention. And I just started laughing. Why would God inconvenience 2 million people so one man couldn't speak at the convention? He could have given laryngitis. It would have done the same thing. You know? God doesn't do that.
Can I read real quick?
Supernatural meanings and everything. Go ahead, Terry.
In this one book I have by...
I can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Hello?
I can hear you.
Turn down your mic.
No, I turned it up. No, I'm almost all the way up.
I can hear you.
Okay, that's good.
All right. Yeah, in this book that I kept on the Shemona Esrei by Rabbi Avraham Chaim Fewer, in his preface, he made some really interesting, not in the preface, in the overview section, he made some interesting statements, actually under a section called A Prayer Perspective. And I've just highlighted a couple of places here. It says, should man's service of God slacken, nature will turn against him. Thus, the Midrash, Bereshis Rabbah 10:4, teaches that prior to the sin of Adam, the planets and celestial spheres traveled extremely rapid speed so they could quickly bring God's blessing. As a result of God's sin, or Abraham's sin, sorry. However, the planetary orbits were enlarged and the speed was drastically diminished. And he says, when man tarries in the service of his creator, nature tarries in serving man. I thought that was really interesting. That we are connected, like I said, we are connected to the earth, but how the earth responds to us is also how we respond to the Creator. If we're connected with the Creator, the earth is connected with us. And when we become disconnected from the Creator, the earth disconnects from us. And it goes back and forth. I thought that was interesting.
No, that is true. As a matter of fact, when the Messianic era comes, all the nations have to go up to Jerusalem during Sukkot, the Feast of Booths, to present themselves before God. Now, it doesn't mean every single person, but representatives of. But what does he say happens when the nation doesn't send representation to in front of him? He says, I will withhold rain from you.
Right.
So essentially, that nation is choosing to give themselves the death sentence. We had a real blessing of rain this year.
Oh, we here in the South have. We've stated that it's only rained twice this winter. The first time was 45 days, and the second time was 35 days.
Yeah.
We're actually starting to get sunshine. We forgot what it looked like. We thought we were in Britain.
Well, we're so happy to hear that we're coming down to, usually by now we have temperatures are starting to hit 70 and sunshine every day. But this is a leap year. We get 7 times in 19 years it happens in the Jewish calendar. And every time there's a leap year, winter is delayed. Winter stays 1 extra month. It's amazing. We actually have the cold weather and the rain that extra month that year. And that's what we're having right now. By the end of this month, it'll be all hopefully back the way it is. It's supposed to be. And we had nice blessings this year for the Sea of Galilee is up almost a meter, almost 2 meters actually, from what it was at the beginning of the time. Yeah, I guess it must be my problem with the sound. Somebody say something.
Hello?
Okay, good. All right, I got it back. I guess I'm going to have to get a new speaker wire. This Adar 2 is actually the real Adar. Adar 1 is the inserted Adar. And what we do, if you have a birthday or a wedding anniversary or something in Adar, you have it in the second Adar, not the first one. So it actually makes it, according to the Christian calendar, a month later than it usually is. But that's what the first Adar, we'll use that for anniversary of deaths and things like that. For all the happy stuff, we move it over to Adar 2, which is the real Adar. Not the Adar 1 is not the real Adar. It's the inserted one.
I had that backwards.
Yeah, me too, for a lot of years. But since my birthday is Kaftet, the 29th of Adar, a few years ago, I decided to sit down and figure out was I actually born in which Adar and what I'm supposed to do, because everybody, if you were actually born in the first Adar, you're supposed to celebrate your birthday in the first Adar, because it only comes once every 3 years or something like that. So, but if you're born in Adar, the regular Adar, then you move it over to Adar 2. It's a little complicated, but it's okay.
Yeah, my father, the Roman calendar, every 4 years is leap year. So he got married on February 9th. He said that way his wife would only be mad at him every 4 years for forgetting the anniversary.
Ah. Okay. Interesting about leap year is Shekhinah, about nature. I know when men in power comes against Israel, things happen. Yes, that can happen. There was an article in the Palestinian newspaper about 8 months ago, maybe a little more, that said the God of Israel is on Israel's side, because when we shoot rockets into Israel, they fall back and land in where we are, and they don't go into Israel. So yeah, God will do things. He does. He'll never make it so big like the splitting of the Red Sea again, but he does do things. And we're grateful to him for everything he does for us. So look, we feel his covering here. I was here in 67, I felt his covering. I've been here in all the wars, I felt his covering. How else could we have won? It wasn't us. It was him that did it. You know, a handful of people against all these millions of Arabs. So it's just unbelievable. But it is believable because that's who he is. Any other questions right now? Terry, you got anything you want to add?
No, everything's it's been really good. I really like the part about the food being converted into energy, to life, and what you do with your life elevates it or takes it down. That's something to ponder on.
Right. That means everything God gives you, it's up to you. It goes with your money, it goes with your kids, it goes with your family, it goes with everything. Whatever he gives you as a gift, it's the way you use it, honor it, and take care of it is what either elevates it or doesn't elevate it, makes it holy or brings it down.
That just really ties into everything in life. It's just really a good point.
Very good. Now, we're going to ask people to see if you can bring some people along next week, if you can, so we can add some people to the group here. I know it's going to take time. It's going to take time to bring more people in. But if you run into people and you have questions, you need help in giving them an answer about something, get a hold of me, get a hold of Terry. We're more than glad to help you out. Anything you need, you have questions on. And even if it comes down to recommending some kind of good book for somebody to read, there's a really good book about thanking God for everything that happens, whether it's good or bad. The name of the book is Say Thank You and Expect Miracles. I think that's the name of the book. Sholom Arush wrote it. It's an excellent, excellent book.
It's got like 100 and something or 90 something stories of saying thank you.
And
his other book that was before that one, which is really good, is The Garden of Gratitude.
Yeah,
That teaches a lot about being thankful.
Thank you so much, friend, for helping us out and everything. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys being with us. And I slowly but surely, we're going to get through to people that it doesn't have to be as complicated and you don't have to take all kinds of sides, do it this way, do it that way. It's just a simple way to do it for all of us, even for the Jews. And we got a million different ways of doing things, but we've been separated from each other for so long that we've picked up customs from all the other places we've been in exile. And so when we all come back together, this guy over here is doing it this way, and this guy over here is doing it this way, and this guy wants a hard-boiled egg chopped with onion on a Shabbat table every Shabbat afternoon. Another guy says, what is it? What are you, an idiot? It smells like sulfur or something, He wants something else on the table. That's just customs. That has nothing to do with how we serve God.
Right.
And this is what we all have to understand. We just have to serve God in the proper manner, proper intention, the proper, in Hebrew, kavanah, the proper intention.
Yeah, it's like, I posted a little bit in the group. I had a situation, I think it was Friday at work. One of the ladies had lost a large, lost $100 bill. It was in her back pocket. She forgot it was there and had stuck some markers in her back pocket. And somewhere during the day probably pulled it out when she was getting the markers. And so I was helping her try to find her money. And that's the thing the Noahide should be ready to do. Someone's in a situation like that, be ready to help recover something that they have lost. I even prayed about it, Shem didn't let us find it for some reason. But, as a Noahide, I prayed, I said, Hashem, let me fulfill this mitzvah of finding something that's lost and returning it to its owner. For some reason, he didn't want that. But that's what we do as a Noahide. That's, you know what I'm saying, is we've got to be ready at a moment's notice just to do what is right for another person.
That's exactly right. But we also have to be ready to realize that if someone walked by there and picked it up and stuck it in their pocket, and for greed they just didn't do anything about it, he's not going to do something to that person to make him bring the $100 back.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I was sharing with this lady. She kept saying, well, I guess somebody's getting a blessed weekend. And I was sharing, I said, God does not bless someone through someone's loss.
That's exactly right.
I said, for some reason, maybe the loss is a test for you. And I said, and them finding it was a test for them. But I said, he did not bless that other person because of your loss. I said, he's never done that. And she looked at me, she says, wow, that's good. I'm like, yeah, that's just, so that's how I evangelized the Noahide laws. Didn't bring up Noahide laws, 7 commandments, prohibition of this. No, we get opportunities to share this life every day without being an evangelist, and like, you know, in a Christian sense.
Absolutely. That is a very good observation, Terry. It's perfect. The person that found 100 had the decision to make what to do with it. They just decided, well, I'm going to take it. They didn't think about the person that lost it.
Right.
And God doesn't take from somebody and give them hardship so somebody else can have it easy.
Right. That's just not how it works.
Now, you can always move somebody to do something for somebody else. Away from somebody.
That's just, I guess, like what we were talking before, you know, our class. That's the simplicity that I see in Noahide laws.
And that's a good way to evangelize it, if you want to use that in quotation marks.
Yeah.
That's called tikkun olam.
Yeah, I just want to add something very beautiful, since we're talking about how God, you know, interact with us. This past week, it was very stressful for me. I needed to go into to a conference, Sacramento, and I made a reservation, you know, to rent a car. So I worked all day, and then after work, I was supposed to go and pick up the car and get ready to go. So I asked one of my coworkers that if she can drop me at the airport and to be able to, you know, get the car. When I got there, she dropped me off, and I went to the, you know, to the rental car company. And I told, you know, the person that I had a reservation and everything. So she just looked at my name, and the first thing he asked is for my driver's license. So, you know, I put my driver's license all the time in my purse. So I grabbed my purse and I looked, and then it wasn't there. And I looked everywhere and I couldn't find it. And I said, what's going on? My driver's license is not here. And I was so frustrated. I didn't know what to do. So I just called back my friend that she just left to come back and pick me up. So at that moment, my mind was blank. I didn't know where was my driver's license. But I started thinking, you know, okay, Lord, this is a stressful moment. I have to get there. I need my driver's license. I don't know where it's at. Please help me. And so on my way to my house, I started thinking, you know, you know, if I did something with my driver's license. So God reminded me, where was my driver's license? So when I got to my home, I went directly what he told me where my driver's license was. That was a miracle. And I have to praise God for that, because otherwise I would not be able to attend to that meeting. So that was a huge miracle, and I'm just so blessed, and I love my God so much. Each day, every day, I 100% on his precious presence. That's all I can say.
That's good. That's good. A good story. Because you know what? I'll look for my car keys and I won't find them anywhere. And I go around 2 or 3 times looking for them. And all of a sudden I'll sit down somewhere and look, and there they are right in front of me. So what's he telling me? Get your act together, Pesach. So how come I didn't see him? I was just sitting right here, you know. He does that to us, teaches a few little lessons here and there. Okay, we're going to have to sign off because we're limited by time on the video here. But I thank you all for coming, and I hope that we're going to see you back next week. I'm looking forward to Terry's new blog. I don't know what it's about, but I'm looking forward to it. I know Shane's going to move you for it. Have a good week.
Yeah, I've got something I'm working on in my head. I've got to do a little research on a particular proverb first because I think I want to use it in it. But
good. Now, if you guys want to contact me anytime during the week, you know how to do it on Facebook Messenger. And I'll be more than happy to help you if you run into any problems, need some advice or something, or Terry, get a hold of him. And we really appreciate you guys coming together so that we can move forward and speedily bring the Messiah, because the quicker we come together in brotherhood and peacefulness, the quicker the Messiah is going to come, the quicker the resurrection of the dead, and the quicker we're going to go on to the next level of eternal life.
there you go. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you guys. See you
Bye-bye.
next week.
Great week, everybody.
Have a good week.